And welcome back to another episode of Crunch Time. As always, I'm your host, Noah Elkin, here with.
Awesome, man. Per usual, we have a variety of topics from the sports world. So, Noah, hit me with it.
All right, Austin. Well, last night the Boston Red Sox won their ninth ever World Series. It was a five-game series, 4-1, beating the Los Angeles Dodgers. Personally, I feel like the series went pretty much as I expected it to. I thought the Red Sox were the best team in baseball all year, and they continue that trend in the series.
It was just like, I'm just be bummed if I was a Dodgers fan. Like, your team comes that close to almost every year the past 5 years, and you're always just going to be let down if once they make it that close. I mean, the Red Sox were just the far superior team throughout the entire playoffs. Just like no other team could compete with them. Like from top to bottom, every position, bullpen, starting pitching staff, shortstop, whatever you need it. The Red Sox are just far more superior. Uh, I thought the Dodgers would win at least two games, but I mean they really had to work for that one win. It went 18 innings and waited till like some dude hit a walk off home run.
Yeah, well, one cool stat I heard about that one game is Game 3 of this year's World Series lasted longer than the entire 1939 World Series. I mean, how about that?
I just, I mean, I'm glad the curse is over for the Red Sox. Like this is their fourth title in 15 years.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of been over for a while now. The Red Sox now have third most World Series wins of any team in the MLB, only trailing the St. Louis Cardinals and of course the New York Yankees.
I think it's every year we talk about how good the Cubs are going to be, but like now it's think every year we should talk about how good the Red Sox are going to be because they have a lot of stars and their farm system's solid. They have great management, and I really just don't see a scenario within these next 2 3 years where the Red Sox aren't going to be at the top of the food chain.
And I think one thing that contributes to that is like yeah they got a lot of star players like Mookie Betts is like probably MVP of the series, but I was looking at some stats and the Red Sox have the lowest strikeout rate, or they had the lowest strikeout rate of the regular season, and then they have the third lowest strikeout rate of the season, and then they have the highest batting average of any team during the regular season at 268. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed the fact that they were able to perform better than the Yankees in the long run. Like I like the small ball beating out the just hit dingers
Yeah.
kind of philosophy. I think that's how baseball is supposed to be played.
Exactly. And if you look at the Red Sox roster, I mean, probably outside of their pitching staff, like all their position players came through their system and or they were traded to them and the Red Sox developed them into good players. So I just think the Red Sox just better organization, just better coached, um, better developers of getting the most out of their players, and I think there's just not a scenario within these next few years where they're gonna get knocked off from the top of the food chain.
Yeah, I'm glad they got this one.
Yeah.
All right. So Steph Curry put up in a game versus the Wizards, put up 51 points in with 11 threes throughout only three quarters. This is the fifth game in which Curry scored 50 plus with at least 10 threes. In the history of the NBA, this has been done 8 times, 5 times by Steph Curry, and 3 times by other players. I just think that's astounding.
Well, there's no debate that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter this game has ever seen and probably will ever see. But I'm I'm literally just convinced that Steph Curry is a human cheat code. Like this man literally only shoots heat checks now because he's so well guarded, but it goes in most of the time. And I was looking through his stats, and he's shooting I think 52% from three. So if he comes up past the half court line and three guys are guarding him, he can shoot it from 40 feet out. The numbers are in his favor. It has a higher chance of going in than it missing. So it's just like, how do you even coach that? Like you can't really get mad at it, but then it's kind of just like, should I say something? Like I don't know how Steve Kerr would feel about this.
Yeah, that's crazy. So Curry actually passed Jamal Crawford for fifth all time in 3-pointers made. The crazy thing is that he did it in 630 games, Jamal Crawford has played 1,265 games. So literally in less than half of the games that Jamal Crawford has played, Curry is out, taking the fifth all-time three-point shooter spot from him.
Like, it would just be a shock if Stephen Curry didn't break the all-time three-point record.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think
it's his destiny.
Barring some sort of career-ending injury within the next couple of years, I think you're right. I don't see any scenario in which he doesn't.
I also just think like
record.
Steph Curry, he'll eventually lose that like quickness and athleticism that makes him like really good, like a double threat from the inside and outside. But then like you're still employable in the NBA if you're just a really good shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think he'll age very fine, and it's just gonna be like wine. The older it gets, the better it gets. And I think his shooting's only going to improve more as his athleticism and explosiveness decreases. So I'm excited to see the rest of his career.
Yeah, speaking of another stars in the NBA, Giannis, who does lead his 6-0 team, became the first to score 25 plus and rebound 15 plus in the first 4 games of a season since Wilt Chamberlain did it back in '65. We talked a little bit about Giannis early in the year. Like, do you think this is his year where he becomes, maybe an MVP caliber player, takes it to the next level in the playoffs? Perhaps.
I think he's been an MVP caliber player these past few seasons before this season. I think it's the effect of the coaching change. Like Mike Budenholzer is a great coach. I think he's really gotten the most out of that team. Like I looked at the team last year and this year, it's essentially the same team, but I think the advantage Mike Budenholzer has over Jason Kidd is he sees the strengths of all his players, and he doesn't really try to make them do stuff they're not comfortable with. And like Giannis should be the guy with the ball like 90% of the time on offense, but everything should be ran through him. And I just noticed with the offense, it's better space. Everyone just seems to be clicking. But I definitely think Giannis is going to take it to the next step. If like he doesn't finish in the top 3 of MVP voting this season, I'd be very shocked.
Yeah, I think it'll help that they have a decent point guard now for a full season in Eric Bledsoe. I know they bolstered their bench a little bit. They got a shooter and driver dual threat, Pat Connaughton, coming off the bench. I think they have a lot of success in the future.
Yeah, I think the Bucks will definitely take the next step. I think they realized they had a lot of potential last year, but they're still trying to figure it out. And now that they have the right coach who sees all the potential and knows how to use the potential, I think the Bucks are only going to keep trending up from here. And I definitely see them finishing top 3 in the East without a doubt.
All right. So back on Jimmy Butler drama once again. Sorry about it. Rockets offered the Wolves 4 future first rounders for Jimmy Butler. Austin, what reason can you think for the Wolves not jumping on that offer?
I just think Tibbs is scared. Like, I don't know. I just think even if you're not going to see those draft picks come to fruition, like, it's to be able to get that kind of pool, I don't think any GM would say no. Mm-hmm. Like, a disgruntled star who's been saying he wants to leave, and the Rockets won't even have him for a full year, and they're just like, yeah, here's our 4 future first-round picks. I'll give it to you. And, like, how do you say no to that? Like, you're literally getting probably the best package you've ever gotten for Jimmy Butler, and you said no, and he's just going to leave for nothing? Like, come on, Tibbs.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone can turn that down. I think you're right. I think Tibbs is scared about his job security right now, and he is thinking that if he accepts this trade and gets canned in a year, he's not going to reap the benefits of that move, which I think is part of the reason why you probably shouldn't have your coach be president of basketball operations. I think we're seeing a conflict of interest up in Minnesota. But, damn, 4 first rounders. That does not happen very often.
Even if 2 of them are duds and 2 of them turn out to be fine, you still won the trade.
That's still a deal.
That's still a deal because you're getting 2 good players for the price of 1 disgruntled player who has made it a point that he doesn't want to be there. And plus, it's just like, why? I think, if anything, pulling off this trade would help your job security, Tibbs. Like, I don't really know what you're thinking of right now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of coaches and job security, up in Cleveland, without LeBron, Tyronn Lue has been relieved of his coaching duties. He is going to be replaced by assistant Larry Drew. Um, things not looking well in Cleveland. Kevin Love is actually looking at potentially more than a month out with a toe injury. What's going on in Cleveland, Austin? This is obviously not the same team that it was last
I
year.
think Cleveland is just so ready to just get that fresh start, move on from LeBron. And I mean, that's understandable, but I really just don't see the point of firing a coach who literally led the team to the finals for 3 straight years, won the title literally his first half season coaching the team. And yeah, like, I mean, so what? They started 0-6. I just don't think that's justifiable to fire a coach of like who's been to the finals, coach at the highest level. And like maybe LeBron was a big factor in his success, but at the same time, he was also successful, and it's just like doesn't justify it. So I'm kind of shocked. I mean, Larry Drew is a fine coach. I think he's coached like 2 other NBA teams, but I don't know. I just think it was kind of not right to just fire someone like that who's given you so much success. And like, so what? They have a cold start. No one's expecting Cleveland to be good this year, but I just think you should have given him a full year to work with this roster rather than just jump the gun and just do it right away because it's early on in the season. Like these 6 games aren't going to determine the whole season for Cleveland. So I'm just kind of questioning why they did it.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. I mean, I think if you're a Cleveland fan, you don't expect to do a whole lot this season. You had your run with LeBron. I think Colin Sexton is your future. If it were me, I would maybe think about in the next couple of years phasing out some of your veterans for young talent and draft picks. I think 6 games is far too soon to get rid of your head coach. You can do a rebuild without losing your coach. I mean that's happened plenty of times before. Look at the Clippers for example.
Mm-hmm. Like I think it's justifiable if you fired him after 0-20, but 0-6 is kind of ridiculous. Like no one was expecting Cleveland to just be at the top, and I really just don't understand this. So whatever it makes you happy, Cavaliers. Like I mean, I understand you're a little heartbroken over LeBron, but I hope you find success, and I hope Colin Sexton works out.
All right. So here's a name, Darius Baisley, who was the number 13 prospect coming out of school. Originally, he was not going to go to college and was going to join the G League fresh out of high school. But now he's actually taken a $1 million deal to prepare for the draft with New Balance.
Yeah, this is unique. One note is he has the same agent as LeBron James, Rich Paul, who is a very good agent. But I think this just exposes the one and done rule a lot. It's just such a broken rule, and I'm in favor of getting rid of the one and done just because it's like the people who need to go to college to improve their game should be able to play, and it just like you can tell their passion's there. But it's kind of just ridiculous to let someone who like top recruit and it's like has all this hype wait a year and hurt their draft stock and and then like maybe they're not going to go as high as they were projected out of high school. But I just really am questioning why he would choose this because if you think about it, it's going to be like over a year before the NBA draft since he's had real live competition. And I mean, you take New Balance offered him $1 million, and he probably would have only made at least like $100K or something, if that, in the G League. So I understand for financial reasons. I just think from a professional development standpoint, like I just don't think it's gonna help because no one really knows what to judge you on. Like, yeah, you can judge him based on his high school, but then he's going up against guys who had a year playing in college or overseas, and they've played tougher competition. Like, literally, he's only played against high school people as his highest level of competition. But I was reading into it, and like this is more from like a professional development standpoint in terms of like his career outside of basketball. So like he's working with like the marketing team, like working with them designing shoes. So I think it's for New Balance, it's a win because you see potential in him, and if he makes the NBA, then great. Yeah, he's the face of your basketball brand, and if he's successful, like good job. But I don't know. I just think for Darius Baisley, it's not the best decision for him. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's a classic example of him seeing short-term upfront money and kind of jumping on that. You wonder if the professional development side, you wonder if, maybe he's thinking like, maybe the NBA isn't quite for me in the future, or even if that's not the case, if he, I don't know, is worried about what he can do there. It's a pretty solid backup plan if I do say so myself.
I think he's really smart for considering that factor over the G League, because I mean, even if his NBA doesn't work out, like he became a millionaire at 17 as a high school graduate at 18, so like yeah, good for him.
And I don't think anyone really knows how this is going to go down. If he gets drafted fairly high and doesn't bust in his first couple of years in the NBA, maybe we'll see more people follow his footsteps. Now, on the other hand, if stuff does not go so well for him, I'm not sure that we're going to see a whole lot of situations like this again.
I think before players go this route, because the G League, they announced, I think last week or a few weeks ago, that they're going to offer $150K to top prospects coming out of high school who don't want to go to college, because like the one and done rule is probably not anywhere near getting abolished within this year, probably the year after next. So 2020, I would say that's the discussion of the one and done rule going down. But I think I'm really interested in this like G League rule. So I'm excited because I think a lot of prospects will go that route, just because it's like you get money and you're still playing against top level competition. Because that's like the G League, you're playing against fringe NBA players. So if you dominate there, theoretically, like you would look better than like the players in college.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, in the NFL, Hugh Jackson, the coach of the Browns, has been terminated. I was kind of sad to hear about that. I feel like if you were gonna fire him, do it last year or do it the year before that. I don't know. I feel like it's sad to say, but this has been his best year coaching with the Browns, and they decided to let him go.
I think it was a good move, just because it's like I didn't see a scenario where Hugh Jackson's gonna lead this team to success on the field. But I just think it was disrespectful to do it this way. I think they should have just done it last year. Because, I mean, like, it's completely justifiable to fire a coach who won one game out of 32 games coaching. And, like, that's fine. But just, like, don't mislead them thinking, like, oh, yeah, we're going to actually give you good players. Like, here's your chance. Do it. So I just think it's disrespectful. But I was, like, reading into it, and I think it was just more so his player management skills weren't great. Like, he didn't really know how to manage the different personalities and get like the team to connect well together. So I guess from that point it was understandable, but I just think it's just disrespectful to do it this way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know. I like the way that the Browns are trending up. It's it's about time. But I agree. I think Hugh Jackson should have been out a while ago. I should mention that Todd Haley, the Browns' offensive coordinator, was also terminated, I believe the same day. So next week we'll have almost a whole new look with the Browns coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that it was really the reason why they both got fired was because they were beefing with each other and was just becoming kind of toxic towards that whole thing. But I mean, I felt like one or the other, not both. Just because it's like you're putting your team in an uncomfortable position to where they're going to have to learn everything completely new. I mean, obviously the schemes are going to be similar, but it's just kind of like having to adjust to new coaching staff, like especially a team that young, and you have a franchise caliber quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Like I just think obviously you made this change for his development, but it's also kind of hurting his development because it's like he doesn't have that stability yet.
Right, now if they made the move last year...
Yeah, exactly. You would have continuity.
Exactly.
And so he would be comfortable, but it's kind of like you're putting your rookie quarterback who's already going to deal with a lot of growing pains, deal with more growing pains. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense. Like, let him have this consistency with one coaching staff, hiring someone new, let Baker Mayfield spend the entire offseason learning this offense, and if you let Baker Mayfield just get an offense, he will dominate.
Well, they got Nick Chubb now, who's playing like
Yeah.
regular minutes. I'm excited to see his progression. All right. Well, in the trade world, Eli Apple of the New York Giants has been traded to the Saints, as well as the Giants. DT Damon Harrison went to Detroit. I don't know. I'm kind of happy to see the Giants like not blowing it up, but I don't know, kind a little bit blowing it up. Their offense has so much potential. I think if they get a quarterback and a couple pieces, just to even things out on both sides of the ball, like they'll be right where they want to be. I don't know. I think Eli Apple to the Saints works perfectly for pretty much everyone involved. He's a pretty good cornerback. He's had some locker room issues, but it was noted that he's from Ohio State. So is
Marshawn Lattimore.
So is Lattimore and a couple other players on the Saints. So I think the Saints thought, okay, we can bring him here. He'll have connections and things will go better.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Giants definitely just saw the season as a lost cause, and I think just please release Eli Manning, please just hit that reset button on the quarterback, because like you have OBJ, who is, if he had a really good quarterback, without a doubt number one receiver, and the fact that he has like an incredibly mediocre to bad quarterback, and he's still considered a top 3 receiver in this league says a lot about his talent. And you have Saquon Barkley. So it's just like you literally just need someone who can throw a ball accurate and far.
Yeah, I don't think you have to necessarily release Eli Manning, but I think you absolutely have to draft a quarterback this year. And if you don't release Eli Manning, I think Eli Manning would be a great person to keep on staff to try to mentor whoever you bring in next. But week 1 comes around next season, and I don't think Manning should be in that starting spot.
Yeah, it's just like he's only hurting his team because he can't move as fast. And like literally the NFL now is just like you need to have a quarterback who can scramble and make plays out of nothing. And Eli Manning's just a statue in that pocket. And so he always gets sacked. And it's like you can't really protect it's hard to protect a quarterback for a long time who just takes so long to get the ball out of his hand. I just think the Giants are reconsidering their strategy, and I'm hoping that like they really reconsider the Eli problem. But I just hope that they don't waste OBJ's prime years.
Yeah, and how about the Saints getting Eli Apple? I feel like they addressed probably their biggest weakness. I mean, you look at that team, and it's well rounded. They got arguably the best running back duo in the NFL. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks. Michael Thomas, top 5 wide receiver. Their defense isn't even bad, but the secondary maybe could use some work.
Yeah.
But I think they addressed that, and I think they are set to make a deep playoff run, much like last year, and maybe even a Super Bowl appearance.
I agree. I think the Saints definitely address a need because the other side, opposite of Marshawn Lattimore, was looking real weak. And I mean, even then, like Marshawn Lattimore wasn't having a great season, but like he was still pretty good. And I think other teams were really taking advantage of the other side. So I think this helps because you get another big press cornerback who has shown a lot of lockdown potential. So I think we're going to be seeing a great Saints secondary. I would have liked to see them make a change, I think, with their strong safety just because they didn't re-sign Kenny Vaccaro, and I think that's one of their glaring weaknesses on their defense. But I think the Saints are more than ready to be a Super Bowl contender. Like, if I don't see them in the Super Bowl this season, I'm going to be a little bummed because I really want Drew Brees to win one again.
Yeah, I mean, he got the last time he won one was 2010. But if they're gonna make it there, they got to beat out. I think the Rams are their biggest competition in the NFC. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Adam Vinatieri, who we've talked about a little bit on the podcast, this week became the NFL's all-time leading scorer. He now has 2,547 points. Austin, we all know Vinatieri is arguably the greatest kicker of all time, definitely in the conversation. But he's 45 years old, and I looked up who the oldest person that ever played in the NFL was. It's a dude by the name of George Blanda.
49, right?
He played till he was 48.
Oh, okay.
The interesting thing is he was a quarterback until 41, and then he
became a kicker.
He was a quarterback and he kicked, but once he turned 41, then he just kicked for the remainder of his career. So I guess my question is, at 45 years old, how much longer do you think Vinatieri has?
Well, I mean, as long as he can still keep kicking the way he does, I don't see a scenario where he doesn't have a job and people not wanting his services. Like, the fact that he's 45 and still kicking better than, like, all of these hot shots coming into the league says a lot about him. And I think he's just good pro. You know, he carries himself in a way that you're like, that's a pro athlete. Like, that's how a pro athlete should be. He's also just incredibly consistent. Like, he's going up there and you know, like, it's a higher chance of him making it than missing. Even if it's like 50 yards out, you're like, Adam Vinatieri's got this. So I hope he kicks at least 50, just because it's like, I think that'd be really cool.
I'd love to see him go
like,
to 50.
It's just like, it would be cool to watch a 50-year-old kick a field goal and say you watch a 50-year-old kick a field goal.
Yeah, maybe he and Tom Brady will reunite and be the old man team. Just kick everyone's butt in the AFC.
I hope Tom Brady retires soon. He needs to go back home and kiss his kids on the lips. You know, no big deal.
All right, well, we're going to end with a couple record breakers here. Adam Thielen tied Calvin Johnson's record of 8 straight games with 100-plus receiving yards. In case you didn't know, Adam Thielen has quite a story behind him. He was undrafted. He was just barely made the Vikings practice squad. Over the course of a few years, he was able to make the actual roster, and here he is breaking records. Top 10, arguably top 5 receiver in the NFL, depending who you are. It's a great story, Austin.
I agree. I mean, I just remember last year everyone being like, yeah, this is going to be Stefon Diggs' team or Stephon Diggs' team. But then, like, Adam Thielen came out of nowhere last year and just dominated the league. And, like, the fact that he's still doing it just says a lot about his, like, grit and determination. Like, yeah, he could have been so, like, just felt bad about himself because he's been passed around, like, the NFL a lot, been waiting for his chance. But he sees the moment, literally sees the moment, and is just running the race. And then I really don't see a scenario where he's going to go down just because he's such a hot start. And, like, to be compared to Megatron, who is, I think, a top 5 receiver in NFL history, I just think this man has a lot of potential, and I wish he if sooner start.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely here to stay, that's for sure. I think with Adam Thielen's breakout, if you will, I think the Vikings now all of a sudden have I'd probably say the second best receiving core in the NFL. You know, I think I look at the Rams as maybe number one.
No, without a doubt. Yeah.
But you have Diggs and you have Thielen, and then you got like Treadwell as the third guy. He's not bad.
And you have Kyle Rudolph as your tight end, like solid all throughout. And you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. So like, I think there's a lot to be excited about as a Vikings fan. I think the problem with the Vikings as a team is just those compatibility issues, just trying to get used to Kirk Cousins being the quarterback. But I think the Vikings are going to be a sleeper team this year, even though they're not really a sleeper team, but they're just not having as a good year as people thought they were.
Yeah, they're losing a lot of close games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they had the tie as well. All right, well, we're going to close with Larry Fitzgerald because we thought he deserved it. He scored his 112th touchdown reception, which puts him 7th all-time, just ahead of Tony Gonzalez.
I'm so happy for Larry Fitzgerald, like the definition of what a pro football player should be. Like, no matter how good or bad his team is, he's always going to carry himself as a professional. I mean, if you watched that game, though, you saw that little spike he had, and it was the first time he's ever done that in his career. And granted, he's played in the NFL for 15 years, and I think that was just a well-deserved spike. But at the same time, I'm just kind of sad because it's just like it's his last year, and he's going to play on a team that's just not that great, and he deserves so much because he's always been consistent, carries himself professionally, great locker room guy. So, I mean, I'm happy for him for this record. I'm just sad that his career is going to end like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. He is the most respectable pro. You know, he's a great guy. I think I wish he had been able to get a ring. He was so close. But that's how it goes sometimes. And regardless of that, he's gonna go down as one of the best receivers in NFL history. With the individual accolades are definitely there.
I think the Saints should just make a trade for him.
Mm.
That would 7th round pick for Larry Fitzgerald. Like, I think if
Okay,
any,
so here's a question: do you think Larry Fitzgerald would want to do that?
no,
Like, I feel like
Larry Fitzgerald would never leave the
that,
Cardinals.
that's my thing. Like, I feel like at this point in his career, it's almost more meaningful to end the team with the Cardinals rather than to go and play somewhere else for half a season and maybe get a ring.
Yeah, I just respect Larry Fitzgerald, and he just deserves a lot. But he realizes this is how it is, and he's not gonna complain. He's just gonna keep doing what he does.
Yeah, hell of a player, hell of a man. And that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of Crunch Time. We want to thank all of you for tuning in. As always, we'll be back next week. For Awesome Man, I'm Noah Elkin.
See y'all, especially you, Larry Fitzgerald. Have a good night.